When speaking of genius, it is impossible to overlook Albert Einstein, a man whose disheveled hair looked as if he had just emerged from an electrical storm, yet whose extraordinary intellect commanded the respect of all humanity. Born in Germany in 1879, Einstein was not considered a child prodigy. On the contrary, his teachers complained that he was a quiet boy and a slow learner. However, perhaps it was this very slowness that gave him more time to ponder questions no one else in his class bothered with. What is the speed of light? Can time be stretched? And how does this universe operate? By 1905, Einstein had stunned the entire scientific world. He published a series of papers so groundbreaking that the year came to be known as his Annus Mirabilis, miracle year. Among these works was the equation E equals mc squared, so famous that many people with no understanding of physics know it by heart. It revealed that mass and energy are, in fact, two sides of the same coin. Thanks to this formula, everything from light bulbs and nuclear energy to superhero movies is, in some way, connected to Einstein. Not stopping there, Einstein proceeded to redefine gravity itself. While Newton explained that an apple falls due to the Earth's pull, Einstein proposed a different view. No, space-time is actually curved, so the apple has no choice but to fall. It may sound mind-bending, but his theory of general relativity shook the foundations of physics and was later proven by astronomical observations, such as the bending of light as it passes near the sun. In 1921, Einstein received the Nobel Prize, but interestingly, it was not for his renowned theory of relativity, but for his work on the photoelectric effect, the principle that underlies solar panels. It was a classic case of being remembered for one thing but awarded for another. Outside the laboratory, Einstein was a humble man with a passion for playing the violin. Some joked that if he hadn't become a scientist, he could have been a street musician. Yet behind this gentle exterior was a heart devoted to peace. As a Jew, Einstein was forced to flee Germany during the rise of the Nazi Party and immigrated to the United States. Understanding the brutality of fascism, he alerted the U.S. government to the dangers of the atomic bomb, a warning that contributed to the inception of the Manhattan Project. Albert Einstein passed away in 1955, leaving behind a colossal treasure of knowledge and the enduring image of an unconventional genius. He once said, "Imagination is more important than knowledge." And that was Albert Einstein, the genius who reshaped humanity's view of the universe. Next is Isaac Newton, the founding father of modern physics. Born in England in 1643, Newton's beginnings were not easy. But perhaps it was this very loneliness that forged his sharp intellect, fostering a love for tinkering, inventing, and asking questions far beyond his years. The most famous story associated with Newton is undoubtedly the falling apple. It's often joked that if it weren't for that apple, humanity might still be wondering why we aren't all floating in the sky. Of course, the story has been embellished for effect, but the truth is that Newton did ponder deeply about why objects fall to the ground. From this contemplation, he formulated the law of universal gravitation, a discovery that left the world in awe. Newton didn't just stop at falling objects. He is also the father of the three famous laws of motion. From a rolling carriage to a spacecraft launching into orbit, everything must obey Newton's laws. It's safe to say that without Newton, we would have neither rocket technology nor the spectacular science fiction films we enjoy today. But Newton was more than just a physicist. He was also a brilliant mathematician. He developed calculus, both differential and integral, an indispensable tool for modern science. Furthermore, Newton had a keen interest in optics. He built the first reflecting telescope and demonstrated that white light is actually composed of a spectrum of different colors. Interestingly, Newton wasn't always a pleasant character. He was known for his quick temper, argumentative nature, and was not afraid to engage in fierce debates with those who opposed him. Despite his volatile personality, however, his genius was undeniable. In 1703, Newton became the president of the Royal Society of London, a position he held for over 20 years. He was also knighted by the Queen, becoming Sir Isaac Newton, one of the highest honors of his time. Newton passed away in 1727 and was given a grand burial in Westminster Abbey, a resting place for the greatest figures in British history. More than 3 centuries have passed, yet his laws and discoveries remain the bedrock of science. When we think of Newton, we remember not just the falling apple, but a genius with a colossal mind who laid the very foundation for how humanity understands the natural world. Leonardo da Vinci was undoubtedly the ultimate Renaissance man who knew it all. Born in 1452 in a small Italian village, Leonardo was a painter, scientist, engineer, architect, inventor, musician, and even dissected bodies to study anatomy. This list alone is enough to show he was a combo pack of intellect rarely seen in history. When people think of Leonardo, most immediately recall his immortal paintings. The most famous, of course, is the Mona Lisa, the lady with the world's most mysterious smile. That smile draws millions of visitors to crowd the Louvre Museum just for a few seconds glimpse, leaving them with the eternal question, is she smiling or not? Then there is The Last Supper, a classic masterpiece tied to the church and a host of subsequent mystical tales. But Leonardo did more than just hold a paintbrush. In notebooks filled with dense drawings and notes, he sketched numerous inventions that were centuries ahead of their time. A helicopter, a tank, an automated robot, and even the concept of a submarine. Some have joked, if 3D printers existed in the 15th century, Leonardo probably would have built a jet and flown around Europe. What astounds people is his meticulous power of observation. His paintings and anatomical drawings are so detailed that even modern-day doctors are in awe. He once wrote, "Learning never exhausts the mind." And indeed, Leonardo's mind seemed truly tireless. However, Leonardo also had a bad habit. He often left his work unfinished. Many of his artistic and scientific projects remained forever in the sketch phase. Perhaps his genius mind was always overflowing with so many ideas that halfway through one, he would be captivated by a new, more exciting concept. This has left posterity both in admiration and with a sense of regret. Leonardo passed away in 1519 in France, leaving behind an immense legacy in both art and science. He stands as a great symbol of the Renaissance spirit, an era when people dared to dream, to think, and to explore all limits. He was an inventor ahead of his time who proved that true genius cannot be confined to any single box. Few people are as badass as Marie Curie, a petite woman who shook the entire world of science. Born in 1867 in Poland as Maria Skłodowska, Marie was passionate about learning from a young age. However, in that era, a proper education for a woman was a luxury. Unwilling to be defeated, Marie educated herself, conducted her own research. The turning point came when she moved to Paris to study at the Sorbonne. There, Marie met Pierre Curie, a talented scientist who would become her lifelong partner. They became the golden couple of the research world. Working together in a shabby, ill-equipped yet passion-filled laboratory, Marie Curie's greatest achievement was the discovery of 2 new elements: polonium, named after her homeland Poland, and radium. She was also a pioneer in the study of radioactivity, a term she herself coined. These discoveries opened up an entirely new field of science and laid the groundwork for nuclear medicine, later helping to diagnose and treat cancer. For her extraordinary contributions, Marie Curie became the first woman to win a Nobel Prize, and even more remarkably, the only person in history to win Nobel Prizes in 2 different scientific fields, physics, 1903, and chemistry, 1911. But behind the glory lay immense hardship. Marie Curie worked constantly in unsafe laboratory conditions, exposed to radiation without any knowledge of its harmful effects. It is said that the jars of radium on her desk used to glow in the dark, like little fairy lights. A romantic image for science, but also the very source of the illness that would drain her health. In 1934, Marie Curie died of leukemia, a result of years of working with radioactive materials. But the legacy she left behind is immortal. Her name was given to the unit of radioactivity, the Curie, as well as to numerous universities, research institutes, and even streets. Above all, she became a symbol of the thirst for knowledge and of the perseverance to overcome gender prejudice, to conquer the pinnacle of science. If there were a title for the father of modern science, Galileo Galilei would certainly be a top contender. Born in 1564 in Pisa, Italy, Galileo was an astronomer, physicist, mathematician, and philosopher. In short, an all-rounder of the 16th and 17th centuries. He is also called the father of observational science, because he didn't just theorize. He proved his ideas with experiments, something few others did at the time. The most famous story associated with Galileo is his experiment of dropping two spheres of different masses from the Leaning Tower of Pisa to prove they fall at the same rate. It sounds simple, but at the time, it was a knockout blow to the long-held teachings of Aristotle. It was through such experiments that Galileo paved the way for Newton to later formulate the laws of motion. But the trademark that secured Galileo's place in history was undoubtedly his telescope. Although he didn't invent it, he was the first to point it toward the heavens, opening up a new universe for humanity. Galileo observed and recorded his findings in detail. He discovered the moons of Jupiter, the mysterious sunspots, and proved that the moon was not smooth and perfect, but cratered and rugged, like a piece of burnt bread. More importantly, Galileo supported Copernicus's view that the Earth revolves around the sun, a heretical idea for his time. As a consequence, he was summoned to trial by the Catholic Church and forced to renounce his views. It is famously recounted that after reluctantly uttering his recantation to save his life, Galileo muttered, "And yet it moves," referring to the Earth. This phrase has become a symbol of the scientific spirit. The truth cannot be suppressed forever. Beyond astronomy, Galileo made significant contributions to physics. He studied inertia, pendulums, and sound, and made many other discoveries. Many of his ideas became the foundation upon which Newton, Einstein, and countless other scientists later built. You could say Galileo was the one who flipped the switch, allowing the light of science to shine into an age dominated by rigid beliefs. Galileo died in 1642 while under house arrest, but his discoveries could not be imprisoned. Today, his name is given to spacecraft, satellites, and even impact craters on the moon. Galileo Galilei was not just an astronomer with a telescope pointed to the sky. He was a symbol of the quest for intellectual freedom in science. If Newton had the falling apple and Galileo had the revolving Earth, then Charles Darwin blew humanity's mind by suggesting that humans and apes are related. Born in 1809 in England, Darwin was not an exceptional student. His own father once bluntly criticized him, saying, "You will amount to nothing." But life is full of surprises. The boy once considered lazy would become the father of the theory of evolution. The turning point came in 1831 when Darwin was invited to join a round-the-world voyage on the ship HMS Beagle. During 5 years at sea, he collected all sorts of things: animal bones, plant samples, fossils, and birds. Most impressive were the finches of the Galapagos Islands. Each island had a species with a different type of beak, adapted to its specific food source. From this, Darwin began to piece together nature's secret. In 1859, Darwin published On the Origin of Species. In the book, he introduced his famous theory: all living things evolve over time through a process of natural selection. Simply put, individuals that are strong and well-adapted survive and pass on their genes, while the weak are eliminated. It's like a survival game show where nature is the organizer. The theory of evolution immediately caused a storm. Some supported it wholeheartedly because it logically explained biodiversity, but many, especially religious groups, fiercely opposed it, finding the idea that humans and apes share a common ancestor too difficult to accept. The fiery debate spread across Europe and the world. Over time, however, as more scientific evidence emerged, Darwin's theory became the foundation of modern biology. Darwin passed away in 1882 and was buried in Westminster Abbey next to Isaac Newton, a testament to the greatness humanity bestowed upon him. Darwin left behind not just a theory but a scientific spirit, to dare to observe, to ask questions, and to patiently seek answers. From a boy once deemed useless, he became one of the greatest minds in history, proving that genius sometimes comes not from dazzling brilliance, but from a quiet passion for pursuing the truth. Next up is Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, the golden boy of music. Born in 1756 in Salzburg, Austria, Mozart was considered a prodigy from a very young age. At just 3 years old, he was playing the keyboard. By 5, he had composed his first piece of music. And at 6, Mozart was touring all over Europe like a true child star. While most 6-year-olds today are just learning to read, Mozart was already performing for kings and queens, leaving entire royal courts in awe. In his short life of just 35 years, Mozart left behind over 600 works. From symphonies, operas, and concertos to chamber music, he could master any genre. His melodies possess a clarity, sparkle, and energy that are both sophisticated and deeply moving. Even if you've never studied music, you have almost certainly heard the tune of Eine kleine Nachtmusik, a familiar piece featured in films, commercials, and even as a ringtone. Mozart's life was not all glamour. Despite his genius, he often faced financial difficulties. Mozart had a lavish lifestyle. He loved parties, dressed elegantly, and sometimes found his pockets completely empty. He even had to borrow money at times to make ends meet. But perhaps it was this very flamboyance that contributed to his emotionally rich melodies, which are at once joyful and full of life's depth. Tragically, Mozart passed away in 1791 at the young age of 35, under poor and mysterious circumstances. He was given a simple burial in a common grave, with no headstone or monument. But the immortal melodies he left behind have earned him the admiration and reverence of the entire world. Today, Mozart is regarded as one of the greatest composers of all time. His name is synonymous with the concept of musical genius, someone who seemed born for the sole purpose of writing music and leaving behind a timeless legacy. Let's come to the king of words of literature, William Shakespeare. Born in 1564 in Stratford-upon-Avon, England, Shakespeare did not come from nobility, nor did he have any outstanding educational opportunities. But who would have guessed that this provincial boy would become the greatest playwright in human history? Shakespeare's career started relatively late. Around 1590, he emerged in London, writing plays and acting to make a living. At first, he wasn't taken very seriously and was even met with scorn. But then, one by one, his plays were released and made audiences go wow, from renowned tragedies like Hamlet, Macbeth, Othello, and Romeo and Juliet, to charming comedies like A Midsummer Night's Dream and The Merchant of Venice. Shakespeare was like a multiverse scriptwriter of the 16th century. He handled tragedy, comedy, romance, and politics, mastering every genre. What is special about Shakespeare is his profound understanding of the human heart. He wrote not only about kings and powerful figures, but also depicted common people, love, greed, jealousy, pain, and ambition. His characters are both larger than life and deeply human, with strengths, flaws, and very relatable tragedies. This is what makes his work timeless. Furthermore, Shakespeare made a significant contribution to the English language. He is credited with creating thousands of new words and phrases that English speakers still use today. He was like a great content creator of language. If a word was missing, he simply invented it. And surprisingly, people started using it widely. Because of this, Shakespeare is not just a playwright but also a founding father who helped shape the modern English language. Shakespeare passed away in 1616 at the age of 52, but the treasure he left behind is immortal. His works have been translated into over 100 languages and are performed all over the world, from grand stages in London, Paris, and New York to the outdoor stages of schools. And that is why William Shakespeare will forever be the immortal playwright in the heart of humanity. Who is your favorite genius, and who else would you like us to do a story about? Leave your thoughts in the comments section below.